The Alaskan winter is not just cold. It is silent. It is merciless. And once it traps you, it rarely lets you go. In 1943, a massive American B-24 Liberator bomber vanished into this frozen wilderness. No survival training, no rescue plan, no hope. Yet one man refused to die. This is the unbelievable true story of a pilot who survived 81 days in the Alaskan winter with zero survival training. The B-24 Liberator was one of the most powerful bombers of World War II. 4 engines, long range, heavy payload. It ruled the skies. In early 1943, an American B-24 was assigned a routine ferry mission over Alaska. No enemy fighters, no flak, just cold air and endless white land below. The pilot was confident but inexperienced with Arctic flying. Like many wartime pilots, he had been trained for combat, not survival. The weather report warned of worsening conditions. Snow clouds were building. Visibility was dropping. Still, the mission continued. That decision would change everything. Hours into the flight, Alaska revealed its true face. Snowstorms swallowed the horizon. Wind slammed into the aircraft like invisible fists. Ice began forming on the wings. The B-24 struggled. Instruments failed one by one. Navigation became guesswork. Fuel consumption increased dangerously. Then a disaster. One engine lost power, then another. The bomber was no longer flying. It was falling. The pilot searched desperately for a place to land, but Alaska offered nothing but mountains, forests, and frozen rivers. With no choice left, he attempted a crash landing. The impact was violent. Metal screamed. The fuselage tore open. The bomber slid across ice and snow before finally stopping. Silence followed. When the pilot regained consciousness, everything was gone. The crew dead or missing. The radio destroyed. Food supplies buried in wreckage. Medical kits useless. The temperature hovered far below freezing. He was alone, in the middle of Alaska, with no training. And winter had just begun. At first, the pilot believed rescue would arrive quickly. After all, the Army tracked aircraft, right? He waited. Hours passed. Then days. No planes. No footsteps. No sounds of life. Only wind howling through trees like a warning. Reality hit him harder than the crash. No one knew exactly where he was. If he stayed still, he would freeze to death. If he moved, he could get lost forever. This was no longer a survival situation. This was a war between willpower and nature. The pilot had never learned Arctic survival. He didn't know how to build proper shelters. He didn't know how to trap animals. He didn't know which berries killed him and which saved lives. But he knew one thing. If he gave up, he would die. Using wreckage from the B-24, he built a crude shelter. Metal panels became walls. Parachute fabric became insulation. Fire became his obsession. Without fire, death was guaranteed. He scavenged wires, fuel residue, anything flammable, and finally succeeded. That fire became his lifeline. Cold hurts fast. Hunger kills slowly. After a few days, his food was gone. No rations. No canned meals. Nothing. His body weakened. Thoughts slowed. Energy vanished. Desperation forced creativity. He ate whatever he could find. Tree bark, frozen moss, melted snow for water. Eventually, he found abandoned animal remains and frozen solid. It was disgusting. It was dangerous, but it was food. And food meant one more day alive. Physical survival was only half the fight. The real enemy was the mind. Isolation broke soldiers faster than bullets. Silence drove men insane. The pilot talked to himself, to the dead crew, to the wreckage. He forced routines. Wake up. Feed the fire. Check surroundings. Move a little every day. Routine gave his mind structure. Hope gave him purpose. After weeks with no rescue, he made a terrifying choice. He would walk. No map. No compass. No idea where civilization was. Just instinct. Each step drained energy. Each fall risked injury. Snow swallowed his legs. Ice cracked beneath him. Sometimes he walked for hours, only to realize he had gone in circles. Still, he moved forward, because stopping meant death. Alaska does not forgive weakness. Storms returned. Temperatures dropped even lower. Frostbite attacked fingers and toes. At one point, he collapsed, unable to stand. Lying in the snow, death felt peaceful. Sleep whispered to him, but somewhere deep inside, a voice screamed, Not yet. He crawled. He dragged himself. He survived another night. By day 70, his body was barely functional. Weight lost, muscles destroyed, skin cracked and bleeding. Yet something incredible happened. He spotted signs of human activity. Tracks, then smoke. He screamed with the last strength he had. Hunters found him. Barely alive, more skeleton than man. They could not believe the story. 81 days. No training, no supplies, no help. Doctors later said it was impossible. But the pilot lived, not because he was strongest, but because he refused to quit. This was not a story of military power. No guns, no battles, no enemies, only a man against nature and his own limits. The B-24 was destroyed, but the human spirit survived. When the pilot was finally brought to a military medical facility, doctors expected the worst. Severe hypothermia, organ failure, permanent brain damage. But what they discovered shocked them. His body temperature was dangerously low, yet stable. His heart was weakened, yet still strong enough to fight. His mind, despite exhaustion and trauma, remained clear. Medical officers said something extraordinary. He should not be alive. Most men exposed to such conditions for even 2 weeks never recovered. This man survived 81 days. Doctors studied his case carefully. They found 3 reasons he survived. First, controlled movement. He never wasted energy. Every step, every action was calculated. Second, mental discipline. He refused panic. He refused despair, even when hope was nearly gone. Third, in adaptation. Instead of fighting Alaska, he learned to exist within it. The human body, they realized, could endure far more than textbooks claimed, if the mind allowed it. Officially, the pilot had no Arctic survival training. But war had taught him something else. Discipline, responsibility, endurance. He didn't know how to survive in Alaska, but he knew how to not give up. That alone made the difference between life and death. Many asked a painful question. Why did rescue take 81 days? The answer exposed a brutal wartime reality. Alaska was vast. Navigation technology was limited. Weather erased crash evidence within hours. Search planes flew, but storms hit everything. The B-24 wreckage blended into the frozen land like it never existed. This was not neglect. This was the cruel mathematics of war. After recovery, the pilot rarely spoke about those 81 days. When asked why, he simply said, "There are things you don't relive. You survive them and move on." Nightmares followed him for years. Silence, cold, endless white. Survival leaves scars, even when the body heals. The U.S. military quietly studied his survival. Training manuals were updated. Cold weather survival programs expanded. Emergency kits redesigned. One man's suffering changed future doctrine. Future pilots would not be sent unprepared again. His pain saved lives he would never meet. Decades later, pieces of the B-24 were discovered, frozen in time, metal twisted, engines rusted, nature reclaiming war. The wreck became a silent monument, not to destruction, but to endurance. This story is not just about World War II. It is about isolation, fear, mental strength, human limits. In a world where people quit easily, this man survived the impossible. No internet, no help, no guarantee, only willpower. Months after his rescue, the pilot stood inside a warm military barrack. The heater was running, food was on the table, men were laughing nearby. Yet he felt disconnected. After surviving 81 days alone in the Alaskan wilderness, normal life felt unreal, noise felt aggressive, comfort felt undeserved, warmth felt suspicious. Alaska had rewired him. He had learned that survival did not come from strength. It came from control. The pilot later wrote a short personal note that was never meant for publication. It contained lessons learned the hard way. Panic wastes life. Hope must be protected. Small victories keep you alive. Routine defeats chaos. Silence reveals who you are. These lessons were not taught in classrooms. They were carved into him by cold, hunger, and isolation. He never forgot his crew. Every survival victory carried guilt. Why him? Why not them? Survivor's guilt followed him longer than frostbite scars. He honored them the only way he could, by living well. Their deaths were not meaningless. Their sacrifice became part of history. Unlike famous war heroes, this pilot received no parade, no medals for survival, no movies, no headlines. War moved on. But survival stories like his shaped military policy quietly, behind closed doors. History often remembers battles, but forgets endurance. Looking back, the pilot admitted something shocking. The cold was not the worst enemy. Hunger was not the worst enemy. Even isolation was not the worst enemy. The real enemy was hopelessness. The moment a man accepts death, nature no longer has to fight him. Experts later analyzed his case. They concluded that most people fail for 3 reasons. They wait too long, they burn energy too fast, they lose mental structure. This pilot avoided all 3, without knowing it. Instinct replaced training. Will replace knowledge. This story speaks beyond war. It speaks to anyone facing isolation, depression, failure, uncertainty. Survival begins when you refuse to surrender control. Even one step forward is still movement. Even one day alive is still victory. Today, Alaska still holds the wreckage. Snow covers it. Ice preserves it. Time respects it. But the man walked away. The bomber failed. The mission failed. But the human spirit did not. Survival experts later asked a haunting question. What if he had stopped just one day earlier? On several nights, his body temperature dropped so low that even a few more hours of exposure would have been fatal. On several days, he had enough strength for only one decision: to stand or to lie down, to walk or to sleep. In extreme survival situations, the line between life and death is not measured in weeks. It is measured in minutes. Investigators studying his case noticed something powerful. On the coldest nights and when his body was weakest, he always prioritized one thing: fire, not shelter, not movement, not even food. Fire meant warmth, light,
hope,
time. Experts now teach this principle as the last fire rule. As long as you can make fire, you still have tomorrow. That rule was born from his survival. Doctors revealed something chilling years later. If rescue had been delayed 3 more days, his organs would have shut down. His body had entered a state where recovery was no longer guaranteed. He didn't survive by margin. He survived by seconds in history. During World War II, survival stories were not prioritized. Victory mattered. Statistics mattered. Speed mattered. Quiet endurance was archived, then forgotten. His survival report sat in military files for decades. No interviews, no recognition, until historians uncovered it and realized this was one of the longest untrained cold weather survivals in military history. Most people think survival requires strength, weapons, skills. But this story proves something else. Survival requires patience, control, refusal. The pilot did not defeat Alaska. He outlasted it. Imagine this crash in today's world. GPS, satellites, emergency beacons. Rescue would take hours. Back then, a man disappeared into white silence. Technology failed. Only humanity remained. A